Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to the opening evening of the Alabama Symposium here in the lovely Bryan Conference Center. My name is Mike Gremillion. I am currently the Interim Director of the Alabama Water Institute, and my other hat is I'm the Director of the Global Water Security Center. So before our keynote speaker comes up tonight, I just wanted to expose you all to a little bit about AWI for those of you that may not be have had any exposure to us. I won't take much time, and I'll actually leave some times for you guys to ask some questions. So over the next day, we have quite a few registrants. Some of y'all students, thank you very much for the posters and stuff that you've put back there. We hope to have about 20 organizations representative from academia, public, and private. And as I mentioned, that we have 19 oral presentations and 32 poster. Just so that you are cognizant of what our mission and vision is, our hopes are that we can produce this next generation of scientists. Again, some of y'all are sitting out there in the audience. Our goal is to help make ourselves a more water secure world for our future. So the way that we hope to achieve this mission here at the University of Alabama is work really hard to secure grants for our researchers. I think we've been somewhat successful at that. I'll talk about that here in a minute. How do we establish new government and industry and academic partners throughout the state, the region, and nationally? And then how do we operationalize that research that you guys have been working on so hard and then be able to communicate that research? I personally find that communications of research is a vital part of science. We can have the best science in the world, but if we can't communicate it to society, I feel that it's not very good science. And so how do we end up bridging the communications and the science so people can understand? And then over the last year or so, we've worked really hard to educate the community with outreach. In fact, over here, right before I walked on the stage, we were talking about, in fact, tonight is the second for the Kentuck downtown in Northport. We have it's a water initiative that we've programmed with the Kentuck, and it's a nice water-related themes that they've had for the last couple of months. Just so that you know that we have 6 affiliated research centers across the campus. For you as students, I wanted you to be aware that there's opportunities of some great research in these particular themes throughout the university, that they're all the time looking for undergraduate and graduate research assistants in each one of these particular themes. So if there's a theme up there that kind of tickles your fancy, if you will, that's something that you may be interested in, come talk to me afterwards and I'll lead you to the director of those particular centers doing some of the fantastic research that we see throughout the university. I asked Zach to create me a word cloud, but he made it into a word droplet instead of a cloud, of the words based on the research that happens here on campus. And so you can kind of see some of the themes. Obviously water is a lot of it, but here's some of the themes that of some of the work that's being done here on campus through this word cloud. There's obviously biology and chemistry and geology and geography and economics, and some of the words that you may not have necessarily said, but each one of these are based on the research. These terminologies are based on the research that's happening here on campus. And so a lot of our affiliates that we have with AWI, we have about 220 affiliates. They go from the College of Education to social work to the areas that we normally see, that you would think water and hydrology, arts and sciences, and College of Engineering. I am pretty confident to say that we have at least one affiliate associated with each college here on campus. And so if there are opportunities to do multidisciplinary work across colleges and departments, I think that is our strength here at the University of Alabama, is this multidisciplinary approaches to solving some of these problems. So My job as the interim executive director is how do I integrate some of these aspects. And the first thing that I'd like to talk about here on campus that you guys are aware of is on Hackenberry is the National Water Center. That is the nation's strategic center to provide the water model to our nation. And so flooding that occurs throughout the nation, for instance, in Hurricane Ian that hit last year in Florida, they had about 133 deaths, but 90% of those deaths were related to drowning because of flooding. And so there's researchers here working very hard on the coastal compound flooding and some of the other issues. And how do we communicate that so that people don't die because, well, a lot of them because they're stubborn and just stay in place, but how do we message that of the seriousness of flooding events? And so the National Water Center was that organization that has a building here on campus that the researchers here at the University of Alabama engage in. We were fortunate last year to win the NOAA Cooperative Institute. It's a $360 million grant, and Steve Burrian, that's sitting right over there, is the lead PI on it. And we're excited about it. In fact, he's pulling the little bit of hair that he has left out, trying to submit projects for this upcoming funding. But we're excited about the research that's being done here at the University of Alabama to support the National Water Center that's actually here on campus. As you saw in the video, we have the USGS is putting the hydrologic instrumentation facility here on campus. Again, so that'll be our second federal partner. A lot of universities would kill for the opportunity to have two major federal facilities on campus, and we have two. If you go down Jack Warner, you'll see this ginormous building going up. We hope that by the end of the year that it'll be completed. Inside of it, I'm going to be Vanna White and walk for a second. That section is the 250-foot river that's inside of it that'll do a lot of the testing for the next generation water observing system. And to include sensors like eDNA sensors that would be able to understand watershed management and ecological management. As you're probably aware, the state of Alabama is the #1 in biodiversity, and also 10% of all water flows or emanates through this state. So having both of these particular federal facilities on campus opens up so many research opportunities to be able to understand from observations all the way through modeling, and what does that mean to the water ecosystems and some of the research that's being done out there. I mentioned I had another hat, and this is the Global Water Security Center that I am being blessed to be able to stand up. All three of these are underneath, or initiatives are underneath the Alabama Water Institute. I had the pleasure of a couple weeks ago going to the UN Water Conference in New York City. And it was the first time since 1977 that the UN and the nations throughout the world had an opportunity to all come together and talk about water. The Sustainable Development Goal number 6 is that UN pledge on how to make our society much better. This particular center is a data research and analytical center that helps our nation and many others throughout the world begin to understand what it means for impacts to and to be more water secure. As I mentioned, we are celebrating as of today, probably about an hour ago, it was 1 year, an hour ago, that we received notification on that we had received Cairo and the $360 million grant. So kudos to Sagi, who's sitting back there, and also Steve and their strong dedication to making this come to fruition by putting in the project and we getting awarded. But it is the anniversary as of today. Like I said, about an hour ago, it was actually when we got notified about this time. So it's a very proud accomplishment for the University of Alabama. A lot of these cooperative institutes from NOAA, if managed correctly, which we plan to continually always manage correctly, some of these systems last for 50 years. And so if we do it right, it'll put the University of Alabama on the map for water research. And this is one of the mechanisms. And again, kudos to both Steve and Sagi and all their hard work that they've done to be the managing PIs on this monstrosity of 28 institutions throughout the United States and Canada, and some of the great work that will come out of this, especially here at the University of Alabama. One of the other things that we are striving to do is a term called research to operations and research to industry. So how can we take the work that you guys are doing on research, and how do we get it out to the operations from an applied science perspective? And then also, how do we engage from economic development? That's a company to the right that has, it's actually based out of Huntsville, so I'm working on trying to get more of a company like that to Tuscaloosa. But how can we provide that mechanism to get research out to the federal government and out to industry? And so that's one of my prime goals as the interim executive director, is how can we do industry engagement and to be able to make sure that we deliver things to the federal government and society and to the emergency managers and the firefighters and all those things that need this critical information to make us a water secure world. So I have a question for you. There's a politician by the name of Cynthia Allman that yelled at me that every time I have to speak, I have to have this particular thing in it. So I'll make this, I know it's late afternoon, you haven't eaten dinner yet, but I'm gonna make this audience participation just a smidgen. Everybody raise your hand who think that it takes 1 gallon of water to make this 16 ounce of Coke.
At least 1 gallon.
At least 1 gallon. Okay, lower your hand if it's 2. At least 2.
Keep your hand up if it's at least 2.
Yeah, keep your hand up if it's at least 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, those of you who still have your hands up, it's 9.5 gallons worth of water that takes the ability to make that. And it's called a water footprint. In other words, from planting in the agriculture of the water to bring the sugar cane all the way through up to get it, nobody has he's got a smaller, he's got a 12 ounce, but to get it into his hand so that he could drink Coke Zero. So that's 9.5 gallons worth of water footprint. There's a researcher here at the University of Alabama that's actually doing this studying within the civil engineering department. But this makes you well aware of how much water it takes to do things. I normally show another slide. Cotton shirts, 660 gallons worth of water for a cotton shirt. Again, think of all the processes, the irrigation and all that stuff to do that. So you need to be water aware and have some cognizance of it. And oh, by the way, you hear these commercials, make sure you turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth, you're gonna save water. Well, in reality, that does save water, yes, but 70% of all fresh water is used by the agricultural community. And so what does that mean to the future of agriculture? And then countries, my world in the global sense, countries in Central Asia that rely on the glacier melt for producing 90% of their hydro power, or power is done by hydro. So what happens in the near future if the glaciers all melt out? Does the country go back to dark ages, literally? So we and the ones that, those of you that are here, how do we make ourselves a water secure world? How do we make sure that areas like the Black Belt have sanitation and health? There's estimates, depending on what you read, there's about 1.3 million people in the United States that do not have clean and fresh water in the United States. Now we have researchers here that are trying to figure out membranes and capabilities. Some of you probably may have taken classes from Mark Elliott and some of the work that he does at the to try to help the Black Belt. There are, in Wilcox County, in the Black Belt, 50% of their homes do not have a septic system, so they have straight pipes. Just literally grab a PVC from Home Depot and you just plug it into the back of your house, and the waste gets dumped on top of the black soil that, oh, by the way, does not, because they can't, it does not go back through the surface to get to recharge, and so it just sits on top of it, and kids play in it and get diseased and all those kinds of things. So the research that we are doing here at the University of Alabama, this is some examples that of some of the great work that we're doing here to help our society be much better. Again, here's some of the facts just about water. Just you may or may not know about it, but I would encourage you to get aware of water. Again, that's why the whole point of having that UN Water Conference a couple weeks ago is to try to get the nations throughout the world to understand how precious our water is and how we should understand it much better. I make the comment out there when I'm traveling around and doing my support that I do, if we get water right, we get climate change right, because that is the mechanism of which you're going to see it manifested into each one of y'all's daily lives. So I would encourage each one of you to make sure that you understand water, because it will be that, like I said, that manifestation in the future on whether it's power or agriculture, diseases. We gotta get a better grasp on it so that our future and y'all's that are younger, you have a bright future ahead of you. One of the things we do here at the Alabama Water Institute is to try to create water smart generation of folks. And so we conduct efforts to encourage that for things such as your poster sessions. And then how do we get all of us to work together? Whether it's biologists to geologists to civil engineers to social workers to educators, how do we all work together so that we move this forward? One of the comments that was made at the UN Water Conference a couple weeks ago, these sustainable development goals, we're supposed to have it all solved by 2030. The water one, and it started in 2020 through 2030. Those were the efforts to go and help water and people have clean water, and it's for sanitation and health. Started in 2020, the comment that was made at the conference was we're actually in 2016. And we haven't really advanced much of the science and the benefit to the people. So we're behind the goals that actually were set in 2020. So how do we get an all stakeholders approach so that we can bring the best science and expertise to serve our nation and our world? So I hope tonight that I give you a little bit of takeaways, and hopefully over the next course of the day, be the posters that some of the students have put out, and some of the researchers that are here in this room, that you begin to understand that how UA is an opportunity here to have this interdisciplinary water research. And we have lots of opportunities, especially for you that are in school right now. There's a lot of water opportunities out there from whatever you want to do. And so how do we inspire from an AWI to make sure that you're prepared to go out into the workforce? And these water problems, like I said, are now. They're not a tomorrow problem. I mean, just ask the folks in the Black Belt. They've dealt with it for 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years. The Navajo Nation in the state of Arizona is the #1 nation in the world that have dental problems because of the lack of water. #1, and it's the United States. And so our problems are right here. We don't have to go over to Africa or some other places. We have real life problems that are happening right now, even in our own backyards, wherever y'all are from. And so hopefully from what we do at the Alabama Water Institute to inspire these kinds of things, that's my hope and desire. So I just wanted you to kind of highlight what Alabama Water Institute, hopefully inspire you to work harder and some of the things that we're going to do. I'm going to turn it over to Zach, who's going to introduce y'all's keynote speaker for this evening. Thank you.